now what I'd like to do is introduce you to a speaker who is my teacher. I'd like to introduce you to a person who has touched the lives of so many of the teachers of Ayurveda in this country and around the world. I want to introduce you to a man that I can honestly say that if he didn't do what he did, I wouldn't be doing what I do, and you wouldn't be about to do what you're going to do. If he hadn't done the work and the service, provided the service that he provided to this body of knowledge of Ayurveda, well, I don't really know where we'd all be today. We'd be doing something. But he was the bridge between the ancient rishis and those of us today who are teaching. There wouldn't really even be a profession of Ayurveda today without Dr. David Frawley, without Vamadeva Shastri. I'm going to read his bio to you in just a moment, and I'm going to share some of the details of who he is. But I really want you to understand that it's really the depth of his knowledge that we drink from. I'm always in awe when I spend time with Vamadeva, David Frawley, because I've studied for 30 years, and I sit with him and I talk to him, and I'm once again in kindergarten as a student, because that's the depth of the knowledge that he carries. These are not just my feelings, my devotion to him as a teacher. This is universally understood around the world. He has been honored for that depth of knowledge in ways that really place him among the most important Vedic teachers of the last century. He stands alongside of them. And that he is here with us today is really quite remarkable. I am in such deep gratitude that someone of his stature is here with us today. The work that he and Shambhavi Chopra, his wife, do in this world, as they travel around the world, as they write their books, as they mine the knowledge, the work that they do is igniting the fires, the Agni, the sacred fires that burn around the world and are transforming the hearts of tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people. Dr. David Frawley, Pandit Vamadeva Shastri, is a Vedic teacher. That's the title, Vedacharya, a teacher of the Vedas. The Vedas are the oldest known writings of the world. To be a Vedacharya is more than knowing Ayurveda. It is knowing Jyotish. It is knowing yoga. It's knowing Vedanta and Samkhya, Nyaya, Vaisheshika. And the author of over 40 books on yoga, Ayurvedic, and Vedic studies that have been translated into 20 languages worldwide. Vamadeva is the only American to have received the Padma Bhushan. The Padma Bhushan is the third highest civilian award given by the government of India for his Vedic educational work. He has a Doctor of Letters, their highest academic credential, from S-VYASA, that's Swami Vivekananda's organization, which is one of the most respected in the world. It's the only deemed yoga university. And he received a special National Eminence Award from the South Indian Educational Society. He's also done many programs with the Ministry of AYUSH, which is the ministry that oversees all of the healing arts in India. It covers both yoga and Ayurveda. Vamadeva is the director of the American Institute of Vedic Studies in the United States, which offers publications and courses in Vedic knowledge systems, including yoga, Ayurveda, Vedanta, and Vedic astrology. If you want to continue your education, that's where you want to go. He is associated with Vedic organizations worldwide. He's regarded as one of the pioneers in the global spread of yoga and Ayurveda over the last decades. It's my great honor to introduce you today to Dr. David Frawley, Vamadeva Shastri.
Namaste, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you, Mark, for that wonderful introduction. It almost leaves me speechless. So I certainly greatly appreciate that. And I am very happy to be with your school at this another graduation. And as you mentioned, our association has gone back around 30 years now. And I did encourage you in terms of starting your school, which is of course not something you got a lot of encouragement for, because starting an Ayurvedic school was not easy and hardly existed then. It was only done by a few. And your school has done a number of notable things. First of all, yours was the first school in America, this is true, to promote the study of clinical Ayurveda. The other programs up to then were doing Ayurveda more for self-healing and self-study and didn't want to directly embrace creating practitioners. So you started that. And after that, all the other schools followed because they needed to keep in line and keep up with the teachings going on. I think that was also in the late 90s, I believe. Then I believe yours is the first school that was able to get a doctor's program approved at a state level in Ayurveda. And the same thing, once you did that, all the other schools followed in order. So in many ways, you have been guiding the unfoldment of Ayurveda in the United States and also to a great extent in the Western world. As we know, the COVID has impacted negatively many organizations, much of the yoga world, and many of course, Ayurvedic practices, the ability to do panchakarma, see people. But because of your organization, your savvy with working online, your organization has continued to grow. And I believe that today you are the largest Ayurvedic school in the United States. And you're also an Ayurvedic school that has kind of grown, expanded in the United States itself, but also with connections to India and throughout the world. And the fact that you have been able to weather through the COVID and grow and expand anyway, and continue your development on many levels is very important. And I think you will also be one of the pioneers of telemedicine, of Ayurveda, and also, of course, of this online type of teaching and instruction, although you have also continued with all the personal instruction classes and all the rest of it. So I also believe you are the most detailed Ayurvedic school in the United States in terms of what you teach, the subjects involved. And I would also say probably in terms of the diversity of people you have teaching. So that is a remarkable accomplishment, again, particularly in these difficult times. And so speaking to you, the graduates, you are blessed and honored to complete this program. And you have a very solid foundation for going forward with Ayurveda in this very difficult times that we have. In this new era of humanity that is going to continue, information technology, so many changes in culture, so many things going on. So I would like to also address a few other points in my discussion here today. And first of all, I also want to honor the Shakti that Yogini and that has come up here. It's very important. And I want to tell you something very simple about the Yoga Sutras. You will not find any single academician who has ever said it, but it's the most obvious thing in the world. Shakti is the last word in the Yoga Sutras. The last sutra of the Yoga Sutras is Swarupa Pratishta Chitti Shakti. This is the definition of Kaivalya, the self-realization, the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the state of the seer or Purusha, when Chitti Shakti, the power of consciousness, Swarupa Pratishta, rests in its own nature. So that power is also at work here. And I also am very happy and appreciate how much Dr. Halpern is able to address the other deeper aspects of yoga and related Vedic traditions. Now, I also would like to let you know of my main teacher in Ayurveda, who is a doctor named Dr. B.L. Vashta, who was in Pune. He was a graduate from the first Ayurveda program in Maharashtra in 1941, 80 years ago. At that time, India was not yet independent, and the British had just started the schools, allowed Ayurveda to start schools from 1937. He ended up writing a lot of the early textbooks for Ayurveda and also being an important journalist and formulator of herbal medicines. He worked with Dutta Peshwar and many other organizations. And I was close to him, studied with him all the way up to his passing in 1998. So in other words, we're part of a very long tradition in Ayurveda, going back to the oldest Ayurvedic schools. And he was also connected to many of the other Ayurvedic practitioners who didn't come from schools, who were still in the Guru Shishya Parampara. And there are many great gurus in that line that we also connected to. Now, the main point I want to address for you is that the scope for Ayurveda, yoga, and related teachings is even more so today in the post-COVID era than it was previously for various reasons that I will discuss. I've also been in touch with the Ministry of Health in India, as well as the AYUSH, and it's important to appreciate it. Can you imagine having to deal with the healthcare considerations of 1/6 of humanity, 1.4 billion people? That is the reality they've had to face. And the basic formula they have is very simple. They address the vaccines as necessary for this acute phase of the COVID pandemic. India has produced vaccinated 250 million people in its own country, which I think is the most of any country so far, and also shared its vaccines with other countries. But along with that, they recognize that long-term, we have to build our immunity to handle these diseases. And that is very well addressed by Ayush, by yoga, and Ayurveda, because you can't just get a vaccination that's going to that's going to strengthen your immunity for the rest of your life. That depends upon how you live. And that, of course, is the factor of ojas in Ayurveda. So I want to address that issue of immunity at several levels. First one you might find surprising is ecological. If we do not have an integrated biosphere, a healthy environment, a clear or clean atmosphere, good soils, good plants, good air to breathe, good quality water. If the immune system of the planet is compromised, then the immune system of we human beings will also be compromised. And if we negatively impact not only the biosphere on an inanimate level, but the creatures living in the biosphere, they all have their specific roles, we will again cause ecological imbalances, or essentially we will degrade our physical and psychological and spiritual environment. And we have our own ecology. Your own body is your prakriti, which is your earth. The mind, your mental prakriti is also there. You must understand and honor your prakriti. We cannot totally change it. We can balance it out. We can change the gunas from tamas to rajas to sattva. But if you're vata dosha, you have to respect that and balance that. If you have certain tendencies in the mind, we also can define these astrologically. You have to respect that. Honor, respect, and take care of your earth and heaven, your body and mind, your own prakriti, and also that of the whole of nature. We also, and more specifically, have to improve our physical immunity, which is, of course, ojas, bala, overall. Congenital factors, dietary factors, herbal factors, so many tonic, rasayana medicines and practices, ashwagandha, shatavari, bala, shilajit, chavanprash, so many formulas, so many products are there. And even all the oils, the bala ashwagandha, the chandanadi, these also help strengthen the physical immunity that is connected to the skin and also defines your pranic field. And then we have to learn how to strengthen our psychological immunity, which is even more important. And that is our ability to endure not only external influences, but emotional ups and downs, stress, negativity in the environment, collective karmas, individual karmas, which is being so strongly impacted today, where we easily come into states of fear, anxiety, even panic. And I have to say the media often pushes these too much rather than pushes the positive strength and immunity. I recently did an article with Deepak Chopra on this particular issue. And it also connects to pratyahara, to yoga nidra, to so many different things. You must have psychological immunity. Don't let the world be too much for you. Don't get caught up in fears, anger, anxiety. Yes, they have a temporary value and effect, but our inner being is beyond time, space, and karma, as Mark mentioned, our inner self, and we must know how to connect with that. And that leads us to also what I call spiritual immunity. If you are conscious, self-aware, and rooted in your own nature, a spiritual heart, that is also what we call spiritual immunity. We cannot be overwhelmed by the forces of the transient external world of time and space. Your inner being is rooted in the eternal and the infinite. That is your true nature. That is your true home. You are a pilgrim in this world of karma, time, and space. You have certain dharmas to work out. We are involved in the evolution of consciousness and humanity, a very slow process overall, but it is also our duty to be involved with that. And Ayurveda is one of the most important ways to do that, spreading physical, psychological, spiritual healing and transformation overall. So that is your role. There's also all the professional factors involved, connecting with the society overall, recognizing that our human race is still very ignorant and unenlightened and immature spiritually. Much patience is required. But through this Ayurvedic knowledge, you have tremendous resources on every aspect of life, whether it's adjusting the patterns of sleep, diet, all the herbs, oils, massages, all the therapies, up to all the rasayanas, and all the behavioral lifestyle changes which impact the psychology, connecting to all the limbs of yoga, the deeper meditation, samadhi, even the karmic factors of the Vedic astrology, all of that. So we have these wonderful resources, and I believe you have been well taught, well guided, and certainly well inspired, and that you will all go forward with energy, enthusiasm, and the highest motivation. Raise your inner being, raise Ayurveda, raise humanity, and fulfill your role in this world. And again, I thank Dr. Halpern and the California College of Ayurveda for being such role models and school models for the rest of the world to follow in the Ayurvedic field. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat.